Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 168. I am Brendan. UFC Fight Night, Gane versus Tuivasa. Man, that was fun. First UFC event in Paris. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover Marivin, Vettori, Robert Whittaker, Nassourdine, Imavov, Joaquin, Buckley, Alessio, DiChirico, Kopylov. We're going to cover all that stuff before we get started. If you like MMA, if you like this channel, subscribe. I put out 2 or 3 videos every single week covering MMA, usually the UFC, Bellator, ONE FC, those kinds of things. PFL, covering the playoffs there. If you like any of that stuff, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. I didn't put out videos last week because there was relatively no MMA. There was one event, but I did not cover it. All right, let's talk about Ciryl Gane versus Tai Tuivasa, shall we? Holy moly. If you look at the numbers here, and that's all you look at, which you can get a really good idea of what happened in the fight, you're going to miss the best part. So if you didn't watch this event, especially if you did not watch this main event. Also, if you're interested in any specific fight on this card, there's timestamps down below, so you can click to go to each one of those. If you're looking for the prelims, it's going to be in the next video. So we're just going to do the main card right here. So if you didn't watch the main card or you didn't watch the main event for whatever reason, go back and watch it. It's worth it. It's fun. This was a fun event, and you're going to miss it. Like, if all you see is that Ciryl Gane won by knockout in the 3rd round, you're going to miss the best part of this fight, which was the back and forth aspect that was Tai Tuivasa just biting down on the mouthpiece and fucking giving back, man. So Tai came out to Moulin Rouge. I think this is the second time that he's done that by Christina Aguilera and the gang. Fucking legend. I love it. I love when guys come out to songs like that where they can just goof around and just have fun. So I love that about Tai. Ciryl Gane was really light on his feet, as usual. He was trying to use the lead hook with power when Tai was moving in. That didn't really land, and it didn't do a lot of damage. So later on in that first round, what he found out was using jabs and then kicks to the body were good because he can keep distance. He had a really long reach advantage, and he was able to keep Tai away while still being able to land a little bit of damage. So he did a good job with that in the first round, and Tai wasn't able to really corral Gane in the first round or do much damage. If you look at the striking numbers, first round was really the closest round as far as total significant strikes go, 16-6 in favor of Gane. But I would say that the first round, other than the 3rd round, the first round was more of a showcase for Gane in this scenario. So it's not to say that Gane had a bad round in the 2nd round, which we'll go over, or that his 3rd round was bad. Absolutely not. But if you just looking at the striking numbers, so obviously I gave him the first round 10-9, and if you were just to look at the striking numbers in the 2nd round, 41-15 in favor of Gane, you'd be like, oh, well, that was clearly a better round for Gane than the first round was, because instead of landing just 10 more strikes, he landed 25 more, 26 more. Yes and no. So Gane had his moments, and don't get me wrong, he landed some big shots, but Tai was the one who started in the 2nd round. He was getting picked apart as usual, but Tai was able to land with a right hand and put Ciryl Gane down. And then after the fight, Ciryl Gane actually mentioned that he was knocked out. Now, this might be not revisionist history, but kind of like how the Romans wrote history, to where when they vanquished a foe and they defeated their enemy, they talked about how difficult it was and how strong they were as an opponent. So it could be a little bit of that, a little bit of gamesmanship from Gane, but that's not the impression that I got. The impression that I got was Tai hit him really fucking hard. He put him down twice with a right hand, and Gane didn't. I think he went to autopilot. I don't think he was out, meaning, he was knocked out completely unconscious and he, fell back and that's what woke him up, which does happen sometimes. I think what is more likely is that Tai Tuivasa hit him so hard that Gane doesn't have a really good memory of what happened and he went into autopilot. Now, this second round here was insanity because not only did Tai put him down. But Gane comes back and lands a body shot, and then he with body kicks, and he throws him like 4 or 5 times to the body in the second round. Yeah, so he landed 11 body strikes. A lot of those were kicks to the body, and he hurt Tai repeatedly. Tai was hurt so bad that he was huddled up, like doubled over in pain, and he moved against the fence. But then he threw back and landed a huge hook on Gane to back on back up. Holy shit, was that fun. Now, this second round, it might be... I don't think it's controversial because it didn't go to the scorecards or anything, but I gave that second round to Gane as well because he had Tuivasa hurt pretty bad, and his just amount of striking numbers and damage that he did. He had him almost out of there. Tai almost had Gane out of there. So if you gave that second round to Tai for those 2 big shots, or those 3 big shots, really, I mean, I'm okay with that. I do not have a problem with Tai getting this second round. And then for those of you guys who are asking yourselves, like, hey, why the heck is he, why am I breaking down this round when, Gane won by knockout in the third round? I like to break down these rounds as if they were going to a decision because that's how you do it in real time. So I take all these notes in real time. I write all them down. I try to, obviously I have the benefit of seeing multiple angles like you do. I get to see the striking numbers when they pull them up. I get to see all those things that the judges don't. But from my standpoint, I'm trying to see it as a judge would see it in real time. And that's why I like to score it. And then it also gives me perspective and it allows me to practice so that going forward, just because a fight ends, then I just get to throw out all my notes. Like, no, let's see how it was going. Cause then I can also break down and find out, hey, what was Gane using? And then, the next time Gane has a fight, is he going to be using that same technique? That's something to look out for. It's just a way to break down fights. Luke Thomas does an excellent job of this. He actually goes, strike by strike almost and breaks things down. He's so good at it, and he's allowed to use the video, which I would get pulled from YouTube for, so I can't do that stuff. I would love to use video and show you guys highlights while I'm talking about these things. I just can't. I wrote in my notes, what a fucking banger this is, because it was. Fantastic damn fight. Fantastic. All right. In this third round here, Tai got hurt with 2 head kicks. 2 head kicks. So look at the striking numbers in this last round. 53-6 in favor of Gane. Tai got hurt bad to the body. He got hurt bad to the head. And Gane was picking him apart, man. And what did Tai do? He bit down on his mouthpiece, took a couple steps back. He even fainted. He fainted that he was hurt at one point, which was interesting. He actually faked that he was injured. Turns and then throws back at him. We've seen that before. People fake injury or fake being wobbled. But Tai was definitely being damaged, and Tai was being hurt this entire fight, and it was rough, man. Watching this stuff and seeing him get punished like this, it was rough to watch. But also, it's one of those things where there's something to take away from it, and that's Tai does not go away. You are going to have to put it on him. You're going to have to wrestle him. You're going to have to grind him out. You're going to have to make him quit. You're not going to make him quit. You have to finish him. You have to get him out of there. He's not going to do it for you. And Gane did that. Gane, he did his version of biting down on the mouthpiece. He took a huge hit from Tai Tuivasa and kept moving forward. Derek Lewis couldn't even do that shit. And this is, okay, I don't want to just do this and just shit on Derek Lewis here because I don't like Derek Lewis' fighting style. I've been very vocal about that. I've been very consistent on my views of Derek Lewis as a fighter. Okay. Ciryl Gane has cardio. Ciryl Gane is an excellent kickboxer. He's an excellent striker. He's a real mixed martial artist. And because of that, he can get away with things. Like, when he gets rocked, it's not just toughness that is pulling him through, although that will too, right? So obviously he's tough, otherwise he would just quit. But we've seen it when guys get tired, they just quit. That didn't happen with Gane. We've seen when people get hit hard, they just quit. That didn't happen with Tuivasa. It just made for a really, really good fight. It was fun to watch, man. It was fun to watch. It was a blast. I loved the energy from the crowd in France. Like, this is the first UFC event in France. Holy shit. I did not expect that from the crowd. I haven't been to France since I was like 19 or 20. I never really spent any extended period of time over there, so I never got a grasp. I wasn't also doing like a survey to figure out like, oh, who's into MMA? Like, are they into MMA over here? I don't know about any of that. So it was kind of I was delightfully surprised that they were so into MMA over there, because it's just another fun location. You know, they can have a really big event over there. They get a huge pop from the crowd. And I'm excited. Like, I love watching that stuff. I love when the crowd's into it. It's fun to hear them go crazy, especially for one of their own. It's a blast. I love it. I really do. And then real quick before we move on here, Gane's only loss, and it's a questionable one, is to Ngannou for the title. Ngannou had some comments about this fight about Gane after the fight, and he said, "It's hard to be impressed because I'm the champion. He's the challenger. So, you know, it was a good fight and good performance for him, but it's hard to be impressed." I had the exact opposite takeaway. I wrote down, I was like, Ty has taken so much damage to the body, and then, you know, Gane lands that beautiful sequence and puts him out. And then, in my opinion, Gane feels like the real heavyweight champion. You know, Ngannou taking out Miocic felt like it was not a passing of the torch, but it felt like a moment where you're like, okay, Ngannou finally did it. He's finally the champion. And then when he fought Gane and resorted to wrestling and did 0 damage, and Gane, I mean, I had Gane, you could have given that last round to Gane, and I don't think anybody's going to turn their nose up at that, because he was the one going for submissions. He was the one trying to finish the fight. And he's the one who landed any damage, really. To see Ngannou so out of his game and just throw his entire game plan out the window, or maybe his game plan was to wrestle, right? But to throw his entire identity of being this destroyer, this mauler, or marauder, this powerhouse, this guy who just throws caution to the wind and just throws hands, to becoming this defensive wrestler with, you know, it really shows me that Ngannou's improvements that he has made as a fighter are not to be dismissed, but are slightly exaggerated, because if he was that good, if his striking was that good, and he went in there with Gane, and he used his grappling to his advantage, it really came down to Ngannou just being stronger, which he is. I think Ngannou is stronger than Gane. Not significantly. His striking definitely wasn't better. His grappling was marginally better, but the strength was the big difference. And I think, you know, Gane made a mistake. Gane was actually trying to finish the fight. Gane was actually trying to go for things, and he lost position because of that. And Ngannou was able to, you know, sit on him and win and keep his title. So that's why when I say, like, I'm not putting Ngannou's skill set down, I'm not putting Ngannou down as a champion, but it doesn't feel like he's the champion anymore, right? It's when Robbie Lawler had that fight with Carlos Condit, and he had the fight with Carlos Condit, who should have got the win there. He had another controversial win. Oh, poop. But yeah, Carlos Condit should have been the champion. And that's what I mean. It has that feeling to it where you're like, you're watching the guy who's got the belt, but is he really the champion? You know, it's going to be weird, because I don't know who Gane's supposed to fight now. Like, is Miocic going to fight anybody? Because Curtis Blades is fighting. Oh shit! Blades has got a matchup. I think, is he rematching? Oh, no, he can't be rematching Aspinall, because Aspinall got injured really bad. So we're going to see Tai Tuivasa versus Curtis Blades? Like, I don't want to see that shit. Come on. Like, Gane, Ngannou's been out. He lost the belt for less last time. Like, how long is he going to be out? Like, when was his last fight? Let's pull that up real quick. So he fought January this year. And to be fair, that was Gane's last fight. But Gane fought again. So Ngannou has not, and he sat out. So if he doesn't step back in, he gets to take like a year off and just fight once a year? That's bananas to me. This fight was such a shit show. First 2 rounds were gone. You could have gave the 4th round to him too, and the 5th round. He's the one who did all the damage. You look at these striking numbers, and you tell me who won that fight. Yeah, that was bananas. All right, I think that's good. I really do. I'm happy for Ciryl Gane. I think he's a good representative of the sport. I think he's the future of the heavyweight division. I think he's someone who actually takes the sport seriously. Not that Ngannou doesn't. I just think that there's other heavyweights who just don't. They've fallen into it because they're heavy, they're bigger guys, and they're just sloppy. And they hit hard, so that's what they do. Marvin Vettori versus Robert Whittaker. This sucks. Because I don't like Marvin Vettori necessarily as a person. I just like the fact that he's kind of... Dude, that was that emotional moment when, like, during the COVID days when he was in that hotel, and the other guy that pulled out of the fight because of I don't know if it was feeling sick or whatever it was, and he's just walking around laughing and stuff. He couldn't make weight. And Marvin Vettori goes up and he's like laughing at Marvin. And Vettori goes up to him. He's like, "Fight me now!" Like the pain and the anguish and just how bad he wanted to fight. The intensity that he brings, and he's like a fucking serial killer. There's something about that where it's intense and it's fun to watch. Robert Whittaker just kind of shut all that the fuck down. Whittaker really is the best, man. If it wasn't for Adesanya, Whittaker is still the champion. I mean, Whittaker has beaten everyone in this top in the top of this middleweight division. In the first round, Marvin immediately started moving forward and walking him down. And then Whittaker fought off the back foot pretty much the entire first round. He didn't land too much damage other than leg kicks. And you saw that it played out quite a bit. In the first round, he landed 6 of 6 leg kicks. They were good ones, but those were the most damaging shots that he landed. And he outlanded Vettori 22-14 in the first round. I gave him that first round. Oh wait, no, I didn't. Whittaker was the more refined striker, and I thought he looked good as far as his striking proficiency. As far as not his proficiency, his aggression and the way he was landing. Vettori landed some bigger shots in that first round. I didn't realize the disparity was this big, 22-14 in favor of Whittaker. I gave that first round to Vettori. I thought he did more damage. I thought his strikes were more impactful in that first round. He was moving forward. Maybe I was off. Maybe I'm wrong. But these 15 headshots from Whittaker, I think a lot of those were jabs, and I don't think they were that impactful. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stand by that one unless I rewatch it or if there's some controversy, which there shouldn't be. Whittaker finally started to land really good damage to the body and follow up upstairs. He actually rocked Marvin with a partially blocked head kick in the second round. He really started to step it up in the second round. You can see that the disparity got even larger, 25-10 in favor of Whittaker. He landed on Whittaker was his speed just became an issue for Vettori. He couldn't keep up with him. He couldn't. He didn't have a way to defend against the speed that was coming back at him. He couldn't get him, against the fence. He couldn't take him down really because Whittaker is really good at staying upright. He's got good defensive wrestling as well as offensive wrestling when he wants it. I gave him that second round, so I had it tied going into the third, and then he even turned it up even more, 27-9. He landed 2 more strikes and got hit one less time. He threw a partially blocked head kick and rocked Vettori again. He landed some really good straight rights. He actually stopped. He did this. He was doing this thing where he would throw a partial right hook, like it's like a half hook, half straight, because he steps off to the left. So Whittaker will step off to the left like this and then throw to stop Vettori's forward movement. So when Vettori moves straight on the line, Whittaker moves to the side and then is able to land. It's really slick. Whittaker was pulling away, landing more damage. Just anybody else against Marivin I don't think had this much success. Whittaker is better at fighting these opponents than Adesanya is. And then Whittaker dove in on a double leg with 60 seconds left, and it was and I said, it's unfortunate that these guys are both fighting in a division with Ciryl Adesanya at the top, because they're very good. And I think Vettori beats a lot of these guys, and Whittaker obviously beats a lot of. We saw it. And, Whittaker, after the fight, said, "I am the dangerous man in the middleweight division, bar none, including the champion." And I think he has a point. The case in point here, let's look, okay? I want you, right? This is not me being a Robert Whittaker fanboy, which I am, a huge fan of Robert Whittaker. I also really like Ciryl Adesanya. They are 2 very different fighters. This last fight that they had was extremely close. I've watched it again, and there is an argument to be made that Whittaker could have got the decision. Now, I didn't give it to him when I initially watched it, and I've watched it again, and I still lean towards Adesanya. Adesanya played the game really well, and I still lean towards him. So I'm not upset that he doesn't have the title. What I'm trying to say when I agree with him being the most dangerous is look at the level of competition that he's faced and who he's beat, and look at how he's beat them. Okay, so when asked about, often people will make these excuses for Ciryl, and they have a point, and there's also there's a truth to it. Right. Most recently, I've been going back and listening to some Joe Rogan stuff. And when talking about Ciryl Adesanya and how his last couple fights are boring, I forget who they were talking about, who he was talking to. But you'll often hear this in defenders of Ciryl Adesanya's fighting style, that because of the competition that he's facing and how dangerous they are, that this is how you have to fight them in order to get the win. So the truth of that, the truth in there, and the true part of that statement is that in order to get the win, Ciryl Adesanya decided to fight that way. Not that he had to. So here's the other part, is there might be some truth to the fact that Ciryl Adesanya might have to fight that way to get the win against that level of competition, against that individual. Now, looking back at who they have both fought and how those fights went. When he fought Derek Brunson, he got the TKO. Right? This is back in the day. This is before he even got the title. Yeah, because these weren't... Okay, they didn't share any opponents before then. Let's see. Adesanya never had to fight Souza. Souza was that first big win for Whittaker, because Derek Brunson was a good win, but Souza was the one who, Souza was making his run back towards the title. He should have got a title shot before then, but it doesn't matter. I'm still a little butthurt about that. Then he has his first fight with Yoel Romero, and in my opinion, wrecked him with a bum knee. His knee was shot during that fight, and he destroyed him. And then in this second fight, I didn't think it was I didn't think he destroyed him, but this whole narrative that Yoel Romero actually won this fight, and that a lot of people thought, that was all brought on by Rogan making comments after the fight took place. And I don't believe that. I've watched it again. So the argument to be made was that Yoel Romero had a 10-8 round in there. Well, if that's the case, and the other 3 rounds went to Whittaker, it's a draw, not a win. And also, I think Romero missed weight for this event anyway, so he wasn't able to win the title regardless. And then he loses to Adesanya. Okay, so first mutual opponent that they had was Yoel Romero, right? Remember how Israel Adesanya fought Yoel Romero, and then the 2 fights that Robert Whittaker had against Yoel Romero. Now, Whittaker took more damage, but Whittaker also had very definitive wins. Adesanya played it safe and did what he had to do to get the win against Yoel Romero. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's what he did. Whittaker beat Darren Till. Till hasn't fought Adesanya yet. Jared Cannonier. Nobody was calling that a boring fight. Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier. I don't remember anybody calling that for a boring fight. Whittaker just outlanded him, stopped Cannonier from doing what he was wanted to do. And to be fair, this was a 3-round fight. He didn't have to go 5 rounds. So that being said, there's a little bit of a difference when it comes to that kind of stuff. Kelvin Gastelum, 5-rounder, absolute destruction. Absolute destruction. Whittaker dismantled him. It was just a one-way ass beating. Now, Adesanya fought Kelvin Gastelum, and this was a few years ago, and it was a very close fight in which Adesanya really had to dig deep to get the win in the last round. Okay? And I understand that. I'm not doing MMA math, all right? This is not what I'm doing. I'm not trying to dismiss Adesanya. I'm trying to acknowledge Robert Whittaker's point that he is the most dangerous man. He's the scariest guy in the middleweight division. And I think his record gives credence to that. How he performed against Jared Cannonier compared to how Adesanya performed against Cannonier. Whittaker walked right into the fire. Which, obviously, they have different styles. Adesanya is a different style fighter than Whittaker. He doesn't have that forward pressure style. He's a counter striker with a lot of feinting and setting things up. And when his opponent doesn't do that, it can make for very boring fights. So be it. What I'm saying is, Whittaker is able to beat the same guys that Adesanya has beat, but it tends to be in a more dominant fashion. And he is more dangerous because he's on the verge of knocking some of these guys out like he did against Gastelum, like dominating him like he did against Cannonier. When he fought Adesanya again, the fight was close. And now when he fights Vettori, remember Vettori's fight with Adesanya. Now, Vettori thought the rematch, Vettori thought there was an argument that he won that fight. You can look at the strike. He didn't. But if you look at the striking numbers over these 5 rounds, you can tell exactly what Adesanya is doing here. 18-11. So all of these are in favor of Adesanya. So if you're just listening to this and you're not looking over at the screen, I do have the stats pulled up, and I want to go. I know I'm hanging on this for a while. It's because I think, like I said, I'm a little bit of a Robert Whittaker fanboy. I think that his the way he represents himself, the sport, the way he fights, everything is just admirable. It's very admirable, and I really appreciate it. No, I just really like the way he fights. I like him as a person. So I think that the pundits might skip over what he said, but I'm making the argument that what he said is accurate. And let's go over the latest opponent, Marvin Vettori. How did Marvin Vettori perform against Israel Adesanya over 5 rounds? Okay, so again, I'm going to read off these numbers round by round, and remember, all of these numbers are in favor of Adesanya. 18-11, 28-16, 19-6, 20-16, and 11-9. Each one of those rounds, and remember that he did get a unanimous decision of all 5 rounds, 50-45. So can you see how Adesanya is performing and getting these wins? 7 strikes, 12 strikes. 13 strikes, that was a good differential. 4 strikes and 2 strikes. in a fight where he's being pressed against the cage the entire time. So a lot of the control time, if you look at the control time here, 7 minutes of the fight went to Vettori, right? A minute 18, a minute 30, 2 minutes. So coming away from that, what do you think Israel Adesanya's strategy was to beat Marvin Vettori? Right? What was his strategy to win that fight? His strategy was do just enough. Land when I can't be hit, defend when I can't land, and get out of every dangerous situation as fast as possible. And that's extremely intelligent. It's smart. Like, Israel Adesanya is a generational talent. This guy has an ability to do things to his opponents that they can't stop, by poking and prodding, landing things when they can't land. He avoids damage like you wouldn't believe. Like, he's not Anderson Silva, right? He's not putting himself into the fire just to create excitement for the fans. He's getting wins and stacking up defenses to make money for himself, earn to advance himself in his career, and to create and form a legacy for himself. All right? So do you understand? Like, I'm not taking away from what Israel Adesanya is doing here. I'm not. I think what he's doing is amazing, but it's very different than what Whittaker does. We already covered the Whittaker-Vettori fight, but go back and watch this fight again. Look at the way Whittaker approached this fight. If you just watch the first round, you could be mistaken, or you could be forgiven for mistaking it as the same strategy as Adesanya, because he only landed 8 more strikes, right? He only landed 8 more strikes. He was on the back foot. Vettori had most of the octagon control for that first round. He was pressing forward. But then look how he approaches the second and the third round. 15 strike differential, going for the finish, landing big strikes, pushing Vettori backwards, and then completely dominating the last round. 27-9. There was not a single round versus Adesanya that you could say was as dominant as round 3 of this fight for Whittaker against Vettori. So MMA math doesn't create, hey, this fighter will beat this fighter for sure, right? Because he beat him, well, this guy beat this guy, so therefore the first guy can beat the third. That's not how that works. MMA math doesn't work. Styles make fights. But if you want to make the argument that you're the most dangerous man in the middleweight division, and you're beating all of the people that the champ is also beating, but you're beating them in a more dominant, more aggressive fashion, I think he's right. I think he's right. I didn't take much credence. I didn't give much credence to it when he just said it. But I thought about it afterwards and looking and thinking about his history and the people that they have fought. Yeah, man. Whittaker really is. Whittaker's the fucking most dangerous man in the middleweight division. And he's right. People don't want to fight him. He makes people not want to fight. Look at what happens when people fight Adesanya. They get frustrated, but they still are coming after him. And they still want to take him out. When people fight Whittaker, they fucking quit. They stop. They stop moving forward. They stop pressuring. They stop throwing back. They just stand there and almost let it happen because they realize they're broken. Whittaker is a fucking problem for everyone else in this division, not named Israel Adesanya. Now, is Israel Adesanya better than Whittaker? Yes. Yes, he is. He is. Like, he's a bad matchup for Whittaker because he's able to just do enough to beat Whittaker. And we saw it in that second fight. That first fight wasn't a fluke. It was a setup, but Whittaker just had a very bad strategy, and he thought he was going to be able to break Adesanya. He wasn't. In that second fight, I think we saw how they really compare to each other. Whittaker is a more aggressive, better fighter against everybody else in the division. But Adesanya is able to just be that matador against everyone. Adesanya's good, man. Adesanya is a generational talent. Adesanya might be one of the best middleweights of all time. Him versus Anderson Silva, both in their prime. There's a good argument that Israel Adesanya could win. And I know people are going to say, like, oh, man, Anderson Silva took a round for him and he was old. Yeah. I'm not, yes. I think it would be a good fight. But Anderson Silva is the second greatest fighter of all time, if not the first. And the fact that, in my mind, and should be in yours, that Adesanya could even be anywhere near approach that ability in the same weight class is something to be admired. And Whittaker is more dangerous than him. He's more dangerous than him. He's beaten fucking everybody else in that division. Damn. I spent a long time on that, but I really do think Robert Whittaker deserves it. He does. He deserves it. He deserves the credit. And I think that his statement deserves credence, and I hope that I prevented an argument. All right, moving on finally. Nassourdine Imavov versus Joaquin Buckley. This fight was weird, man. I didn't like this at all. I really didn't. I don't like when people are like this. Lots of shit talking, lots of moving around. Imavov was moving forward. Buckley was counter-striking and outlanding for the first half of that first round, to be honest with you. Buckley landed more shots in the first 2.5 minutes of that first round. But Imavov eventually gets a takedown. No, that was in the second round. Imavov, he was pressuring him forward, and he stopped Buckley from doing most things. He was able to do more cumulative damage, in my opinion, and that's great. But, watching these two guys talk shit and Imavov being really shitty, and then I gave him the first 2 rounds, okay? He took the back, and he ended the second round going for a rear naked choke. I had him up 20-18 going into this third round. But guess what? Imavov got tired, and the shit-talking stopped, and Buckley started landing damage. Now, there's some talk from Imavov's camp. Yeah, Derek, clearly you screwed this one up, 30-27. No, Buckley won this last round. He did. Outlanded him 26-22, did more damage, and just because he got taken down for a meaningless takedown does not mean anything. Imavov being, there's talks about people from his camp claiming that he's going to be the next champion. He is fucking huge, by the way. He's way bigger than Buckley. And middleweight, he's one of those guys who his biggest skill set, I think, is the weight cut. Not that his other skills aren't admirable. Obviously, he's got very good striking, good foot movement, a lot of the other stuff. I just think that Imavov's biggest skill is probably going to be his weight cutting ability because he's gigantic. It is. It's a skill. You get to come in there and basically cheat. It's sanctioned cheating. So, because of that, I really think, his camp is talking about him possibly being a middleweight champion. Maybe someday. I don't see it. I really don't. He's got a loss to Phil Hawes. And he's got good finishes against Ian Heinisch and Edmund Shabazian, but the way he fought against Joaquin Buckley in a 3-round fight and getting tired after 2.5 rounds, he's got a long way to go. Now, could he be champion eventually? Possibly. But in this middleweight division, the only way it's happening with the current landscape, look at this middleweight division. In this current landscape, the only way he's beating all these people up here is by aging them out, right? These people eventually falling off because they're not good anymore. They're aging out of the division. And in that sense, I guess he could be champion. I think he has a problem against a lot of people up here. I think he has a problem with Hermanson. He might be Strickland. I think Costa gives him a ton of fucking problems. I think Alex Pereira knocks him in the next fucking week. I think Derek Brunson's a problem for him. Marvin Vettori's a problem for him. Jared Cannonier, Whittaker, and obviously the champion. So I don't do this where I say oh, hey, unless it's the female divisions in which they're really thin, I don't talk about this stuff all the time. I'm not putting the guy down for getting a win. What I'm trying to do is put it into perspective, the fact that his camp is calling him, a future champion. And I think let's put a pause on that. Let's give it a moment here. I don't know if that's necessarily the case because he's got some skills. He's got some skills, but I think he's got a ways to go before he gets there. Also, the shit talking, the way they're doing it, where they're nasty about it, and he was like, ugh, I don't enjoy that. Like, there's something about it that's just like, I'm not like acting all high and mighty, like, oh, I would never do that. It's just when I see it, it's so fucking childish. I can't stand it. All right, Alessio DiChirico versus Roman Kopylov. Kopylov landed more damage, did more damage. Kopylov ends up getting the knockout in the last round here. Kopylov landed more damage more often in this first round, 20-13 in favor of him. Alessio was having a better round in the second round. I gave he landed some really big shots up top. Kopylov was really landing some huge kicks to the body. Alessio landed more, in my opinion. Apparently, I'm wrong. 21-21. In my opinion, I thought he landed more effective strikes in that second round, so I actually gave him that second round. I had it even going into the third here, and then in the third, just Kopylov landed a 5-piece combo and got Alessio to fall forward and got the KO finish. So very impressive win for him. Yeah, good win. Is a really good win for him. I'm not mad at that win. Alessio DiChirico, he's a tough dude and he hits really fucking hard and he's dangerous. So good win for him. Jarno Errens versus William Gomis. I don't want to talk about this fight very much. I know that he's a French guy. William is. But if you missed this fight and you didn't watch it, don't watch it. You're gonna fucking hate your life. This guy, this was a total stinker. The talk of Gomis coming in here and being, the featherweight version of Gane because they're from the same camp. I don't know about that, man. Like his striking's okay, but he was really content just sitting on top. Like the amount of control that he had was impressive. 219, 218, and 327, round 1, 2, and 3, respectively. That's all he did for 3 rounds is just sat on him. I hate when I watch strikers try to do grappling because it's really depressing. And especially after the fight that preceded this is the one that made this even worse, and we'll go over that. Gomis ends up getting the win via decision. I gave him all 3 rounds, but the judges had it, gave 1 round to Errens. And here's the fight that opened up the card. Definitely worth watching. Holy shit, what a banger. Nathanial Wood versus Charles Jourdain. Great win for Nathanial Wood. This was a fucking banger of a fight. So if you look at the strikes here, they're going to look really close round by round. It's just there was a big difference as far as the amount of damage that went out. Okay, so back in Wood had some really tight striking, but Jourdain's very tough. So Wood decided to get a takedown in that first round. He got a couple of them throughout this fight. And using those takedowns and mixing things up. Like, he did it, got a little bit of control, landed some damage on the ground, and then it eventually stood up. Like, Nathanial Wood was using it offensively, but not in the best way. Obviously, like, he's not a hardcore grappler, and he didn't do it the way I would like to see someone grapple, but I thought that he did enough in those moments just to, like, the first round was a little bit sitting there, but Jourdain sitting there, sitting on his back, throwing his fucking hands up. You can do that shit all you want, man. Get the fuck off your back. Like, if you have the energy and the wherewithal to throw your hands up and complain to the ref, then you should be defending it. Like, I cannot stand it. I think if you're on your back or you're against a fence and you complain to the ref, you should get a point deduction. Because you're not fighting anymore. You are warned to defend yourself and fight back at all times, and that's not what you're doing. You're bitching, and you're complaining to the ref. Not for a foul, but for being controlled because you don't like what's going on. Fuck off. This fight was fantastic, though. Nathanial Wood, 26-23 as far as striking numbers go in that first round. So the striking numbers were close, but Wood landed the more impactful strikes. And if you look at the second round here, 35-35, and I wrote it down. I was like, the numbers might be close, but the bigger shots are all coming from Wood. So Jourdain is landing these short uppercuts and these double jabs that are stiff, and they're good shots. They're good damaging blows, right? I'm not putting them down, but Wood is landing these hard body shots, hard shots upstairs, as well as some jabs and some other things. But he's landing the real damage. And Wood was landing leg kicks, heavy leg kicks. And in my opinion, those leg kicks are more damaging than a stiff jab. So I actually gave him the first 2 rounds, regardless of the 35-35. And also, he got a takedown in the second round as well. In this last round, Jourdain was throwing a ton of volume, but Wood was one doing the damage. And even that, like, the volume might have come from Jourdain as far as total striking numbers. I mean, you look at this 84 to 73 as far as total striking, and Jourdain landed more total strikes. I was right about that as well. But the significant strikes and the big strikes were 36-28 in favor of Wood, just doing the damn thing. Guys, Jourdain is good. He's good. He has some issues. He needs to learn to defend the takedown and fight well, do a little bit better grappling. And Nathanial Wood is not, I wouldn't say he's a problem at featherweight, but he's very, very good. All right, that is it. If you're looking for the prelims, they're going to be on the next video. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Thank you for spending time here, taking time out of your day to listen to me talk about this stuff, go off on a little bit of a tangent and some rants here. Yeah, it means a lot to me. I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope that you guys are enjoying the last little bit of nice weather here in the Midwest that we have before we start to get into the colder season. And I hope you guys are spending time with your family, enjoying back to school season. I know that's coming up and people are starting to go to school. So enjoy the time with your family while you can. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot to me, and I love y'all.